They just stick a beer bong through the visor and then just...
That's what Kimmy's drinking when he's in F1. That's why he's like Jolyon Palmer, who was an F1 driver a couple of years ago, he would arrive in a helicopter.
There's definitely a niche. There's definitely a naked sim racing. Right, it's been a while since I've done one of these. We had a little break after Johnny Herbert because obviously that was a huge guest, a huge deal for me. And we've come back with someone who I've been meaning to get on for a very long time. I first asked today's guest a while ago and we've been meaning to get it done and we're getting it done today. So welcome to the Cool Down Podcast, Mr. 500k plus subscribers, Steve Alvarez Brown, SuperGT. Steve, how you doing, mate?
Hello, Tomo. Hello, viewers. How's it going? Yeah, I'm all good. All good. I hope you're all doing well.
That sent something through me. Just the way you said that. And what I love as well, because obviously coming into this, and I've watched your stuff for time as well. That intro hasn't really changed, has it much really over the years? Was there any thought process into that?
It was the most basic, simple thing I could possibly say. Hello, viewers. Because you're viewing the video. It kind of became a meme for some reason, and I just stuck with it because it's almost like when you record a video, you don't really think what you're saying at the start. You just kind of just say whatever you say, and then I just never thought to change it. So here we are, many years later, with the same intro.
It's mad because I don't know if you saw on Twitter, Ben posted something about like what's the most used intro in YouTube and how it's changed over the years, because obviously he does Hey Guys. I don't really have one. I'm just like, I just start talking. Yeah. I'm a bit rude, maybe. Is that a bit rude? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's fine. I've never felt, whenever I've watched your videos, I've never felt like you were palming me off or anything. It felt fine.
But like in real life, when I've met you, I've not just started talking. I've said hello first. Oh, yeah. Imagine in real life, I just talk about. I don't even introduce myself, so I'm just like, so go-karting. But anyway, Steve, it's you know what, like there's levels to this conversation. I've made notes. I always make notes before these, but I've not made too many because there's a lot to cover. But what I want to cover first and foremost is that you've just ticked over a very big milestone that not many YouTubers have reached yet, which is 10 years on the platform, mate.
Yep.
And 10 years as SuperGT as well, because a lot of people start and then they'll change their brand over the years. Like, I mean, first of all, why SuperGT? And has the famous Japanese Touring Car Championship ever come for your head?
No, if anything, I'm coming for their head. They need to change their name. No, yeah, so why the name? Yeah. It was at the time of starting my YouTube channel, so 10 years ago, that happened to be my Xbox gamer tag. And I chose that name because I just felt like it looked like a good name related to motorsport. I didn't even know about the Japanese, it was called JGTC back then.
Yeah, it was JGTC back then, wasn't it? Yeah.
And it was a car on Grand Theft Auto, as far as I remember. I think it just looked like a good, solid name for like anything motorsport related. And it was a car in GTA, and therefore it was my gamer tag, and therefore it was my YouTube name. And then I've just stuck with it ever since.
Have you ever been tempted to change it at all, or have you ever like written up loads of different names, and are there any like, I don't know, Super Alvarez, or I don't know?
I think these days the only thing I could possibly change it to is my name.
Yeah.
Because obviously YouTube's quite personality related. Therefore, that's the only thing I think I could realistically change it to. But other than that, I wouldn't change it.
And obviously, like 10 years on the platform and the growth, the exponential growth, which is fairly standard with YouTube. It takes a long time to get going, and then all of a sudden it's like, I mean, how many subs have you gained in the last year? Because I know it's been pretty mad. I was basically last night I was watching your the video you did in 2019, which is like covering your YouTube story, just so I wasn't missing any bits coming into this. And yeah, it was like you were on 300k then, and you're comfortably over 500 now.
Yeah, I think on that video I showed a graph of like the growth, and it is ridiculously exponential. And I think let's say in the last year maybe 180,000 or about that. I don't know exactly, but But yeah, in like the first years, it took me about 5-6 years just to get to 10k.
Yeah.
And then now I'll get 10k in 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's just ridiculous how quickly it changes over time.
But I guess also the YouTube audience has matured a lot, I suppose, as well. It's kind of a combination of factors now. Because, I mean, hence why I kind of, over such a short period of time, I've been able to grow so much. But you were like in the early days where, you know, no one was really... I remember you saying in that video, you were one of the first people to really do racing content, you know, gaming content on YouTube properly, which obviously now is massive. Like, do you see yourself as a bit of a trailblazer, Steve? They'll look back in the future and be like...
In some ways. I mean, I think in many ways, I think the thing on YouTube is that you start speaking to people, you start seeing what other people do.
Yeah.
And you see that in many ways it's similar to what you've done. You think, okay, I'm setting trends here to some extent. Not for everything, of course, but just for certain things. You can see people, a lot of, particularly with like Gran Turismo sport content.
Yeah.
You can see things being done in the same way, like the editing style, the length of the video, the thumbnail. You think, okay, well, maybe I'm doing something right. You know, I got in there first and did it a certain way, and people, funnily enough, people would just copy that into some extent. Yeah. But actually, I think that in many ways on YouTube, you have to do things your own way, and that's actually the best way to do it.
Definitely.
But yeah, back in the day, just starting, I think when I started, 2011, there was just really nothing in terms of racing. There was just no. I just can't even name a YouTuber really who was doing it back then on racing games, really.
But as well, like back then, there was no one to really. The thing is, with what you were doing, there was no one to copy, or no one to emulate, or no one to be like, oh, all right, they're massive, they're earning a living from it, I'm going to do it like there is now. But also, there wasn't really many people at all on YouTube, even in like beauty, even in these huge spaces, like anyone earning a living. Like where do you think, where did the motivation for you come from, do you think? Because obviously a lot of people, again, like you've mentioned that video, like I've been contacted loads of people that they want to start a channel because they want to be a full-time YouTuber. But obviously back then it was straight up hobby. You know what I mean? That was literally it, wasn't it? Yeah,
that's basically it. There was no one, you didn't go on there and go, oh, I really like that guy, and I'm just going to kind of do a similar thing.
Yeah.
For me, it was just, if anything, I did it for myself. Just, I'm going to record these races because it was quite a new thing back then. It was a Hopog HD PVR before Elgato came in and everyone used Elgato. Just thought, right, let's just record some races. I'm having good races online. Let's just record it, upload it, just so that I could watch it back, if anything. But then, so I guess because not many people were doing it, people just watched it, and it kind of quite quickly gained an audience. I think back then it was like Forza 4, Dirt 3, like those sorts of games. Yeah. And just quickly gained an audience. And I thought, actually, there's something here. There's some potential here to do this like a bit more seriously than just for a laugh for no reason. So that's when I took it a bit more seriously.
Because I think that's a kind of underappreciated reason or benefit for doing YouTube is just for yourself. Because I always say a part of the reason I started was because I really struggled, like my confidence in terms of speaking and articulating myself, and I still kind of, when I watch back some of these podcasts and my videos, I feel like I'm still improving all the time and I'm still getting there. But like that was a big part of my reasoning as well, like for starting it in the first place. It was nothing to do with like there's a gap in the YouTube market or, you know, it was just like something good. I think as hobbies go, like content creation is a more, you get more out of it than a lot of other hobbies, I suppose, in terms of like valuable practical skills that you can take into the world, you know, long term, even if you don't make it as a career, you know.
Oh yeah, I've learned so much from this. Just like all of my editing, like self-taught. Like, I knew nothing about editing 10 years ago. Like, so I know how to edit to an extent. You know, I could always improve. But yeah, like the commentary thing as well. Just being able to speak clearly. Like I went back not too long ago and listened to my first video where I commentated over it.
Yeah,
it is shocking. It's awful to listen to. It's like I am cringing the whole way through.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's like, wow, I was so bad back then, and I'd like to think I'm a lot better now at commentating or speaking over some clips or speaking in a podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
So you do learn lots of skills, and you do it for yourself in many ways because it's just something you feel like doing. It's an outlet. It's really nice, I think, with editing a video when you have a vision in mind. You record a race or something, and then the end product is like a really good video, a watchable video, which I think, wow, like actually I really enjoyed editing that, and then seeing the final product, which is something that people would enjoy watching.
I feel like your voice hasn't really changed. I don't know. Maybe to you it has because you're going to notice it more. But I feel like watching your stuff back. Like last night I watched a few of your like earlier videos in like 2013, 14, and I was just like, he sounds the same.
My first video was like this, and I just really didn't.
The delivery's changed, but the voice itself.
The voice hasn't changed yet. The delivery has changed because it's so weird. Like I'm doing it right now. I'm in my own room with no one. There's no one here.
Yeah.
And I'm talking. You have to put your voice. You have to project your voice into it. At the beginning, I wasn't doing that. I was just like, no, what will people think? And now it's just like, right, hello. Today we're going to be doing this. You have to really like learn, and I learned to do that over time, and that's actually carried over into real life because I was I've always been like a quiet guy, and I wasn't really like projecting my voice just in a normal conversation, and that's actually helped me in that sense as well.
Well, because that's the thing that is like, it sounds weird, it doesn't sound right, but it's a skill to be able to come across naturally when you're addressing camera or whatever. Like that in itself isn't something that anyone can just do like that. And again, all of your videos, like with mine, every single one you get a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, you doing the Gran Turismo commentating. I mean, that's a huge stage with audience members, and you're there, and you're like, I mean, do you remember what was the first one you did in terms of like, was that the first real life thing you presented, or was like a presenter on, like with people in an audience?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I've done like little bits of presenting here and there with like little pieces to camera for some certain things, but that was the first time when, so this was the online finals, end of 2020, Gran Turismo. I was a analyst sort of commentator.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder than you think because you have pressure you have people in your ear saying you'll be in 2 seconds. You've got to say this. So in many ways, it was hard because, like right now, I can just say whatever I want to an extent. But when you're on a show, we've got directors and producers who have, they're trying to direct you, and you have to say certain things, and then maybe the person in front of another commentator will lead you in, but they'll lead you in with a question that you didn't really want to answer, or that you don't have the answer to, and then you have to sort of think on the spot. So that was a massive learning curve. That was. But yeah, it's quite nerve-wracking live audience, and like producers and everyone listening to you. There's a lot of pressure on it just to make sure you get it right. So definitely learned a lot with that.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like even me doing stuff with Veloce now, like going from just in my room on my own, like I don't even let Hannah in here to like I don't feel comfortable. Yeah. I have to be on my own. So all of a sudden, then there's lots of people who are like, I don't want to waste their time by messing up lines. And then like I did a screen test last year with the whole thing in the ear, and I was like, oh my god, like I need to work on this, because you're right, like it is difficult. That in terms of presenting, is that something you want to do more of? Is that something you kind of really found that you've kind of enjoyed?
It's something I've always been on the fence about it. I've never felt totally comfortable being like sort of the main presenter. I know with a video, obviously it's my channel and I am presenting it. Yeah. But it's different because, like you say, you're in your own room. You can do it in your own time. You can say what you want. You can edit it. You can cut out all your mistakes. You are producer, you're director. Exactly. So you're doing everything as you would like. It's something I would like to do more of and get better at, Because as you say, with YouTube, you just never know. Like, would I be doing this until I'm 65 and then I retire? Probably not. Like, there's probably going to be something between now and then that I would have to change to. So I think for now it's just really a case of just trying to do lots of different things, build your skills, and then work out what you like, what you're good at, and then hopefully move on to that.
That is quite a common sentiment, that, you know, you can't be a YouTuber forever and there's always going to have to be this time where it doesn't. But I mean, the way I try and look at it is YouTube ultimately is just the platform. Ultimately, that's just a way of people seeing your content. It's more that if you want to create content, and obviously, I guess with certain areas of YouTube, there's more of a shelf life than others, I imagine, with creators. But I guess it depends on the kind of content. So when I think about the specific stuff that I'm doing, I don't really see why I couldn't carry on doing this until I'm like for my working career, to be honest, personally, because I just feel like as I get older, obviously my audience will get older, and then I would become like the older independent content creator around Formula One, maybe. How do you see that kind of playing out going forward? Because like theoretically, like there's no reason why you can't be, you know, when you're 80 and playing Gran Turismo 14, like
Gran Turismo 7, sure. You mean?
Yeah, true. There's a niche for that, surely.
To be fair, I mean, there's no reason why I couldn't just continue playing. You have to consider, I would say that as time has gone on, I've got less interested in gaming. That doesn't mean I don't like it anymore. It just means that I can't sit there and just play Gran Turismo all day.
Yeah.
It just gets boring. As you get older, you just want to do different things. You have to change it up.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So that is the main thing I would say. Over time, you do have to switch it up. Yeah. And I think the kind of things that you're doing with like the post-race analysis, like just talking about the big talking points of the F1 race, that's just really good. You could do that. That's the kind of stuff you could do forever.
Yeah.
So if, I certainly just have to consider like what I would do in the future. Because obviously, I think once you've built the audience, once you've got a following, like you say, it doesn't matter about the platform. It doesn't matter if you do it on YouTube. You could just do it somewhere else. Because once you've got that following, you've got the following. People like you. They know you. So you could kind of go anywhere with that.
Well, that's why you doing the presenting is a good thing, because that's just another string to your bow, right? Yeah. And that could always be like to be, an esports analyst, for example, like presenting could be a potential thing down the line where your opinion, having all your experience, even in 20, 30 years time, would still be in the same way that you've got football pundits who are in their 60s and 70s. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why that can't be, because esports would be so much more established then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think a key element now is just building an audience who knows you, who trusts you, who likes you for a certain thing, and then you can kind of go anywhere with it, as long as you stay sort of relevant in whatever way you have to. Then you should be fine for the long term.
And obviously, if YouTube was to go Pete Tong for some reason right now, where do you think you would? Because obviously, there's a lot of YouTubers who get big when they're 16, 17, 18, and they've never kind of worked outside of that space, and they've never had like the life experience out of it. And obviously, I know you only went full time. Was it 2018? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
You were working before then. So like, where do you think where would you go, do you think, if things did just end?
Yeah. OnlyFans.
Nice. I like that. There's definitely a niche. There's definitely a naked sim racing. Maybe, Steve. Come on. I'm sure you've got the body for it, mate.
We'll try it for a month, see how it goes. No, I don't. I mean, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Like, let's just.
Have you ever really considered this, though? You know what I mean? Like, as a backup. You know what I mean? Since you went full time.
I mean, I've certainly acknowledged in my mind that it could happen, and that you just never quite know. I haven't seriously considered alternative careers, like right now. I suppose it's almost like to seriously consider that would be like you're almost admitting that it might happen. So it's just like, right, no, let's put all our energy into making sure it does work, which is what I have done. So for now, you know, if YouTube died tomorrow, then yeah, I'll be screwed.
But that's the thing. I suppose it's one of them that actually, when you think about it, all of the skills that you've built in terms of like production and video making and how to grow a channel and all of that, with the YouTube growth and all that, you'd just be a consultant and help other people grow their channels. You know what I mean? Because you'd still have that it's not like you've just been sat here playing games and literally nothing else and have not developed any other skills outside of playing that game. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that I have a lot of knowledge with YouTube that a lot of people would like to know. You know,
a lot of brands would like to know, like
yeah.
big marketing teams, and having a YouTube specialist would be, I think, a really valuable. I've worked at PR agencies and marketing agencies before, and I think that's a massively overlooked, you know, part of it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that's the thing with YouTube. Yeah, it's not obviously the image is that you're just playing games all day, but really a lot of it behind the scenes. I mean, playing the game is probably like 30% of the time, or less than. The real time is editing, just curating your image, making sure everything's like clean and tidy and follows a nice narrative, and social media, make sure the posts are timed, and there's just so many other elements that because you do it, I suppose if you do it well, it's almost like people don't really think that you're putting any time into it, but because it just comes across so naturally.
Effortless. Yeah,
but it's stuff that you really do have to put a lot of time into. All these other things behind the scenes that aren't obvious. So there's a lot of skill and knowledge there. So I suppose it would be hard to say what kind of job you would go into outside of YouTube, but there's definitely lots of avenues for sure. It's almost normal for most channels to have an editor now. I mean, I still don't. I still do it myself, but there's a lot of potential out there, and you can really just self-teach. Like, if you don't know something, go on YouTube. How do I do this on Sony Vegas? You'll find out in 10 minutes. Obviously, there's loads of crap videos of some 5-year-old trying to tell you for 20 minutes how to do something, but ignore those ones. You'll find the video eventually.
Exactly.
And you can teach yourself like how to edit. Like in a year, like you say, in a year, you could learn so much about YouTube, about how it works. You're just constantly analyzing yourself. In many ways, you can liken it to like motorsport. You go around a lap. What was wrong? What did I do wrong? Where could I improve? Why did that not work? Why did this work? And then you're just constantly getting better and better and better and better over time. So yeah, there's a lot of potential with anyone who just wanted to start. And like you say, you do have to do it for fun, like at least to begin with. If your aim is I want to be full time within 6 months, it's like no, like you can't think of it like that. You do have to just.
Something else I wanted to touch on as well,
yeah.
After watching, again, doing my little research, is that, so I studied it at college level, but you did it at university. So we both did motorsport engineering, but you did it at uni, I did it at college. Do you look back, because again, the reasons you gave for knocking that on the head when you did were just exactly the same as mine. I really loved motorsport, but I just didn't like the practical element of it.
Yep.
Like, do you look back on that? Because where was it you went to university?
Hertfordshire,
nice. Do you look back on that time and think like, what could have been if you'd have stuck around? Or obviously now looking back, you're
not
like, that's
at
the
all.
right choice. Not at all.
I don't regret going. So for those who don't know, I went to uni for about a year and a half and then I stopped. But I don't regret going and I don't regret leaving. Because I think going is a good experience in life in general, just to leave the house and go somewhere new on your own. You've got to plan stuff for yourself and all that kind of stuff.
Freshers.
Yeah, exactly. And £1 drinks every night, you know.
Beautiful.
I wish I could have some £1 drinks now.
Well, the pubs have just opened up indoors, so we
let's go.
Definitely.
But yeah, I don't regret going, and then I don't regret leaving. I just think I'm very happy with my career now. I just think that if I'd carried on, maybe I'd be in a motorsport role that I wouldn't be as happy with. I don't know. But I'm not displeased with. I have no regrets about the whole thing, basically. And I think that my advice to anyone is that certainly in my secondary school, they kind of pushed everyone to go to university. And it was like, you are going to university because it boosts our school statistics or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going then.
I've heard that many times.
So it was just like, I didn't really want to go, but I just kind of did because everyone was.
Yeah.
But there's definitely avenues in life where you can just, like we were just saying with YouTube, like you can just, as long as you have a passion for it and you want to learn and you constantly improve at it, you can forge your own career for yourself.
It's a weird one. Like, yeah, I've heard that many a time from people saying like, yeah, it's the kind of pushy colleges to increase their, rather than actually wanting it. But that's the thing as well. I think it takes a lot of, it takes a lot of bravery to be like, this isn't for me. I'm getting out of this, because, you know, I mean, a lot of people would stick at that because they'd feel pressure from, you know, people around.
What I'd say is that, yeah, I mean, like the term dropout, like it's not normally a positive term. It's like
it's usually got negative connotations, hasn't it? Yeah.
But like when you look at, I'm not going to say that I'm on the likes of like Bill Gates or anyone, but a lot of
come on, Steve. Come on, Steve.
But there's a lot of, you know, very successful people who are dropouts. They just think, right, that path is not for me. I'm going to do this instead.
That's the thing. I think, like you say, university, like for me, again, it was all about the moving out of home and living on your own and meeting all new people and that side of it. So you got the best bit. You got the best bit out of it, and then you just kind of canned it.
I did freshers year, which was the easiest year.
So good.
Like you only have to get 40% just to pass the year. So just doss around, pay quite a lot of money for it. Although when I did it, was like 3,000 a year. Now it's 9,000. So it's not advisable to waste $9,000 now. I got in
the final year before the fees went up. Okay. So I don't envy the youngsters.
Oh no, it's way too much now. You've really got to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big financial burden to take on if it doesn't pop off. When you were at uni, did you do karting? Because obviously, I'm sure many know that Steve is an avid karter, especially in your younger days, and then now you are again, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Did you do any at university?
Yeah, so university have the BUKC, British University Karting Championship, Club 100 Karts, which are the karts I've been very familiar with. Really fun championship because, you know, you're turning up at different tracks around the country with your mates from uni, probably going out for drinks, a fair few too many the night before, and then probably some in the morning as well if you're an absolute maniac. And then some in the pit stop as well if you're absolutely mental.
A little refuel.
Yeah. They don't just mean refuel the car.
No. They just stick a beer bong through the visor and then just...
That's what Kimmy's drinking when he's in F1. That's why he's always going on about a drinks pipe.
All makes sense. It sounds enjoyable. Like it sounds like that was you know. And how much did that? I have a question. How much did that cost? Like, did the uni cover a lot of that, or was that all out of your own pocket?
No. Well, we had this argument with our university because a lot of sport gets subsidised by the university, but we had to make this argument that karting is a sport. And like the university didn't really buy it because a lot of people just see karting as like, oh, you're just sitting down, you're just like going around. And like when I was with my mates in Spain, like, I was quickest, so like yeah, it's easy. Karting's nothing. Like there's a lot of misunderstanding with what karting is. So unfortunately, it wasn't subsidised. We had to pay for it. I think it was. They do reduce the prices because it is students. I think it was like £140 for a round, and that was like a 25-minute endurance and a 1 hour endurance.
Okay.
So of which you do half. So you got about an hour of track time for that. It wasn't too bad actually, and it was part of it was just like the overall experience of the day of like traveling to a new track and like being with your friends and all that kind of thing. So I'd say, I mean, it is a lot if you're a student, but I really enjoyed it.
No, I mean, as karting goes, that sounds pretty good value considering. I mean, it's an expensive thing, isn't it? But obviously, your karting story. I mean, how old were you when you first got into a kart?
Yeah, so I first got into a kart August 2001, which is nearly 20 years ago.
Whew, damn, it is as well. It's another anniversary coming up.
I know. Yeah, 20 years ago.
Mad.
So a long, long time. a long, long time, and I've raced nearly every month since then.
Did you at what level do you think you were at your most kind of competitive in karts? At what age?
Yeah, it really does depend on. I mean, I would say I've always got better as I got older, but I'd say there's a time I remember in sort of about 2004. I was fairly competitive. I was always on a restricted budget. Like my dad wasn't a millionaire.
Yeah.
And then I always remember, like, I was racing a track in Sittingbourne called Bayford Meadows, and like Jolyon Palmer, who was an F1 driver a couple of years ago, would arrive in a helicopter. And when you see that happening, you think,
in a helicopter,
he would turn up to the track in a helicopter, and you just think,
Bruh.
well, I mean, if someone's in a helicopter, you know they've got some money.
Yeah.
So basically, I just thought, like, you know, what's the chance of me like beating this guy? And to be fair, for a while, I was kind of like up there with the, you know, with the quicker kids at the front, like not winning, but like near the front. So like 2003 and 4, like I was doing okay, and then sort of budget fell away and the results fell away as well.
Yeah, I mean, it would obviously the perception of, you know, the rich kids in karting is that the money keeps them in, but it makes a difference, right, to the actual performance, because you can afford better components. Is that, like, am I right in what I'm saying with that? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the more money you have, you can afford to run with better teams who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
To replace your kart more often, something that maybe we don't appreciate. Like, some people getting a new kart every sort of 2 months, like a brand new kart, and they cost like
mad.
Just for a chassis without an engine, it's like £3,000. And that's before we bought an engine, which is about the same price. So like 6,000 for a kart. Some of the money stories you hear in karting are just ridiculous. And these days you can even spend like tens of thousands just doing basic level club racing.
It's mad. It's literally, because even in the junior formulas, like, you know, you've got drivers, you look at F2 and F3, they're meant to be spec series, and they are spec series, but the cars aren't equal. Like, we saw that last year where there was a lot of talk about the engines for a lot of drivers were under, whether it's Mechachrome not, you know, servicing engines properly or whatever, but there's a lot of factors that do kind of upset the balance. I mean the fact that you've kind of been through that early system, you know, what do you think that, because I always try and ask this question to people who have raced, what can motorsport do to make it more accessible, or is this just the way it's always going to be?
It's a really tough one. It's a hard one. I suppose the only thing I can really think of is just to make. There have been championships which have tried to do it in karting, where you just try and really standardise as much of it as possible, as in like the tyres you have to use, the parts you have to use. There's a championship called Easy Kart, which did it a few years ago, which you have to use these certain components, and it just keeps the costs down. But there's still, like, if you have a lot of money, you are typically just going to do better in a lot of karting that exists today. And another thing is just the time. So if you have more money, you can just race every weekend. Yeah. And you can go to all the different tracks, race every weekend. It's the same as sim racing. Like, the more time you spend doing it, the better you're going to be. So it's hard to stop that, really. It's a really difficult question to answer, and to be honest, I don't really know how it can be answered.
Well, if you had the answers, you'd be a very rich man.
Oh yeah, exactly.
My understanding is that so many drivers, and this is why I say, like, I think 80% of the F1 grid would be different if it was as accessible as sport as football is, where talent is going to shine through. Yeah. Like, I think at least 80% would be different. But I do definitely think that sim racing and that overlap, like James Baldwin or Jan Mardenborough, or like there's loads of examples of, like, people who've made that transition, who have done karting but not necessarily been able to afford to take it through, gone to sim racing, proved their, you know, worth, and then James can jump in a McLaren GT car and put it on pole in his first, you know, event. I feel like a lot of the big teams will start to look as much at sim races as actual karters for finding that actual like that talent that you can't put your finger on, that talent that Verstappen, that Senna, that Hamilton, that all these drivers have.
Yeah.
Like so many of those talented individuals would have just fallen by the wayside because it's so expensive.
Yeah, I think one of the problems, you call it a problem, but a lot of motorsport teams aren't really looking for the talent. The talent just buys their way in, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
So like, if you got the money, if I had £100 million, I could just buy my way into any series I wanted, like right now. I could be doing GP3 like next year. I think sim racing definitely is a different avenue to look at, because I have noticed there is definitely a correlation between how good people are at sim racing and how good they are in reality.
Absolutely.
Certainly with the younger generation, I think a lot of existing racing drivers, let's say who are in their 40s, would struggle to go over and do sim racing well now.
Yeah.
But if you're young and you can do sim racing very well, you're probably going to be very good in a car. Probably. It does take similar sorts of skills, of course, not the physical skill, but just learning what works, what doesn't work, what techniques are making you go quicker. And if you can think along those lines in a sim race, then there's a good chance you can do it in reality as well.
I mean, the average age, I think, of the current grid is like 26. So obviously a lot of the younger guys will have, but you still look at the likes of Kimi, Fernando, Lewis, Seb. They wouldn't have grown up sim racing because it didn't exist to the extent that it does now. Whereas you go, look at F1 in 15, 20 years, every single driver will have grown up as much of a sim racer as they would have been a karter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like having that cross-pollination. I just feel like, but also the sport needs to get into a position where the teams aren't reliant on the money of paying drivers and they can focus on the talent, because F2, F3 teams, they can struggle to put a budget together. You've got a Delada or a Ragunathan who can chuck money in, clearly very incompetent as racing drivers relative to the rest of the field, but like it's almost like hopefully budget caps and all that will stop the need for that money to, corrupt the system, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely does need to change. Hopefully the new budget caps for next year can at least change that to an extent. But you'd want to think that F1 is the best 20 drivers in the world, which it isn't. Because it's a shame that almost teams can only exist if a driver brings X amount of millions of pounds. Otherwise, they just wouldn't exist. That's not sustainable. It shouldn't be like that. It should be 20 best drivers. Are you really good? Do you deserve to be here because you're one of the best 20 drivers in the world? Yes, you're in. Not because this guy has 20 million pounds more than you, so he'll get in instead.
That's what I mean. It damages the product. I mean, imagine watching football, but instead of watching, Messi and Ronaldo, you're watching, Trevor, whose dad's a multi-millionaire playing for Man United because, he bankrolls the team. Like it's obviously not to that extreme, but it's kind of the same thing to an extent. But obviously, Steve, we've got to talk about, because you're karting, I guess. Well, you obviously with Quadrant. Well, actually, before we talk about the karting, I want to talk about Quadrant in terms of how that relationship first started.
Sure.
Because did they reach out to you? What was the kind of balance? How long did that kind of go on for until it was kind of announced that you were part of Lando Norris's esports team, which is mad, isn't it?
It is pretty mental. It's pretty crazy. It all got. When did we announce it? In November. Early November is when we announced the whole thing. But I'd say talks sort of started in about June, July last year, so quite a few months before that.
Yeah.
And really, they approached me. They wanted someone who I think they liked what I did because of the real stuff and the sim stuff.
Yeah.
So I was very much racing orientated, but both in reality and in sim racing. So I think that one of the reasons why they chose me. And with the karting, I think the karting thing is just it's one of the best decisions I've made on YouTube to start posting that kind of stuff. Because I was actually on the fence about doing it at all, because I thought I'm doing sim racing just to keep it like that. But actually, opening it up to the real side, the kart racing. I think that was really good, and Quadrant liked that. And they said, we would like you to be part of the team, and we started talking, and then here we are.
Mad. And now, obviously, Quadrant are gonna. Well, tell us, Steve, what exactly are you going to be doing this year with Quadrant in terms of karting?
Yeah. So you may have seen I raced against Lando in a 1v1 a couple of months ago. Really good fun, just to meet him. Really good lad. I just got on with him really quickly. Like, he's just like your best mate all of a sudden, And I wasn't, not in a bad way. I wasn't necessarily like starstruck. It was just so natural just to meet him. It just felt like a normal, honest lad.
Yeah.
So we did that 1v1. We raced against each other. Off the back of that, we kind of discussed what we could do moving forward in terms of the karting. And Quadrant, and it's going to be backed by Lando as well. But Quadrant are going to be sponsoring me to do like owner-driver professional kart racing for the whole year in a championship called UKC, Ultimate Kart Championship. So I used to race my own kart 15 years ago, as we were just talking about. Ended in 2006. So 15 years ago, I was doing my own racing. Now we're going to come back full circle, fully backed by Quadrant, Lando. So I'm going to have my own kart. Team be running me, Dan Holland Racing. So, and we'll be making, of course, loads of videos on that throughout the year. So it's just an amazing step up as well in terms of just the karting I'm doing. The quality of the production will be up as well. Mm-hmm. And it will just be a nice like learning curve, nice something different to move on to and to learn. So I'm really looking forward to it, and obviously just amazing that get myself into this opportunity where I can be sort of sponsored to kart race.
That's incredible, man. It's so sick. I'm so proud of you, man. You've done so well to get to this stage as well. Like, was that ever when you had those initial discussions? Obviously, you said they liked you because of your IRL stuff and your sim racing stuff, but was there ever chat of this being a thing, or did that just come up after that video and then all of a sudden the wheels started moving and then
it was sort of loosely spoken about, the fact that we could, I mean, back then it was really, there was nothing like set in stone, this is what we're going to do. It was all sort of very like, these are the possibilities of things that might happen. And, this was kind of one of those things that we did vaguely talk about, but we never really set it in stone. But then off the back of that video, we had a bit more discussion, and then I decided to go forward with it.
And now, obviously, karting places are starting to open back up. I'm happy to hear that Buckmore, which is obviously your local as well, you're right around the corner. Like, that's because I think Buckmore, they seemed to be struggling at one stage, right? But now they seem to have come through it. So
yeah, they laid off.
It's a great track.
I think they had 50 staff, and they had to lay off 48 of them.
Oh wow!
So they had for a long time only 2 left. But fortunately, I think from June, at some point in June, they're going to start taking orders again. Presuming they're going to get all their staff back. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the best, if not the best, track in the country. So to see that go under would have been a massive shame. So it's really good to see that isn't going to happen. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know why there wasn't funding in place. It seemed like they had wealthy owners. I don't know what was going on.
But obviously with YouTube, I feel like it's impossible to say how, like, where our respective channels would be relative to where they are now if it wasn't for the pandemic. But I mean, how have you, from a personal point of view, how have you found this last kind of year and a half? Because we're finally getting to the end in the UK, it seems. But Jesus Christ, man, it's been tough, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does seem to have gone on. I think to begin with, like, let's say March, April 2020, when it just started, when COVID just got released, when it just came out.
Fresh out the sunset.
Yeah. To begin with, I was
COVID
like...
unboxing.
Yeah. Back then, it was almost like, this is something new. Let's see what this is like.
Yeah.
It was almost like, I didn't mind the lockdown back then, like for the first sort of month, because it was like, this is something different. Let's just see what it's like. And I could focus on YouTube, and the views were like going crazy, astronomical at that sort of time. Everyone was sim racing.
Yeah.
You know, we had all the like not the Grand Prix things with Veloce, and F1 were doing it as well, and you know there was so much interest. So in terms of like professionally, it worked really well. But then I suppose it does take a toll on you when you have to, especially being a YouTuber, because I'm on my own in my flat on my you know, no one else here to speak to, so you get very isolated. You know, so it was almost like I made any excuse just to go to the shop, just to see another person, and I'll do only half the shopping so I can go again tomorrow. You know, so it's just like little things like that where it's just like, this is getting very tedious and actually quite lonely. Just you know, being on your own. I don't live with anyone else, so it did take its toll for sure. But you know, last couple of months it's been a bit better. It's been fine. We are slowly, thankfully, coming out of it in the UK. Not the case in every country, of course, but we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is good.
Yeah. No, because that's the thing as well. Like, obviously, the IRL stuff has become a big part of your channel now, and obviously, not being able to do that for a long time. I mean, when was the first time you went back karting? Like, after, you know, what was the gap between? Because there was that kind of in the UK anyway. There was that little middle part of the pandemic where it was kind of not. It was eat out to help out, and then that was a mistake. Because now everyone's got it again. It was like, what was the first time you got back in a car after?
Yeah, I did a couple of practice sessions. I think, it closed all up in March, didn't it? It closed in March. I couldn't do anything. I think I did a couple of little sessions in like July. So there's a good like sort of 4 months there. Frustrating thing was I was going to do like a year in Club 100 in a team endurance event with Jimmy Broadbent. We did one round at the start.
Yes.
We finished third.
I remember that, yeah.
So technically we finished third in the championship. Based on the one round that we did. So that was a bit frustrating, because that would have been a good fun series to do. But it was, you had that weird stage in the middle where we kind of just did a couple of races sort of July, August, September, and then it went back off again. But now we're back on it, and hopefully should be able to go ahead with this year's championships just as normal.
And obviously, without the pandemic, I mean, maybe you would have still, but you might not have necessarily done your 200 laps of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Obviously, got to chat about that. I dropped in a couple of times. I was just kind of, I went to bed, and then I got up, and you were still there, obviously. It ended up being, what was it? You were on stream for, was it 30 hours in total?
I was on stream for 30 hours. When did I start? I'm just trying to think when I started it. I woke up. I started it on a Friday, I think it was. I woke up at 12 midday. Started the stream at 2 p.m. that day, and finished it 8 p.m. the next day. It was 30 hours though. It was 30 hours from the start of the first stream to the end of like, the last bit. So the race itself took 28. So within that, I took 2 hours of pausing, you know, whatever. But yeah, that was one of the worst things I've ever done. It was absolutely horrible. It was weird because the middle 12 hours and sort of the last 8 were okay. It was just the middle, when you'd normally be asleep.
Yeah.
You can hear it if you listen to it. Like my voice just, you can barely hear what I'm saying because I'm so quiet. Because I've just got nothing left.
I've got nothing left.
So yeah, insert Ian Beale meme here.
Insert Ian Beale.
But can you imagine being on lap 82? You've still got 118 laps left. You've still got 20 hours left. It's 1 a.m. You're hungry. You're tired. Honestly, it was just it was mentally the mental torture was it was just pure anguish. I never really want to do that again. But to raise 25,000 for kids in the Philippines, I mean, you can't. I had to continue. I couldn't stop because I knew that what was at stake. You know, that's going to build a couple of schools. So, which
is insane. It's the worst thing you've ever done, but also the best.
Exactly.
You've ever done as well. Like I remember I asked, like, obviously right now you can't travel, but you know, I know you said when we were chatting after, you said that money's going to. So are they schools local to where some of your family live?
Yeah, so probably like 20 minutes away from where some of my family lives in the Philippines. With that sort of money, they can build. I think the guy at the charity was saying it's like 8,000 for a classroom, and that's a fully equipped classroom. So you can build like a couple of classrooms for that. So it's a lot of, this is a lot of money, and it will go a long way in the Philippines, more than it would in the UK. So hopefully I can travel. They do plan to go there in January. We don't know if we'll be able to, but I would love to go and just like make a follow-up video of like, here's where the money's gone and here's the benefit of everything. So that'd be great to be able to do that.
Well, I was going to say, so in terms of that money, is that just, you've given that to a charity and then they'll just do with it, like they're going to build the schools, but like, or are you like, have they said, we're going to start building now, or have they already started? Like, what's your involvement in that?
Yeah, so we handed over the money pretty much straight away after the event. I've been speaking to the guy called Kelvin Nichols who runs the charity, and funnily enough, he was like a kart scrutineer. So he's very well known in the karting space in the UK. So actually, we had like loads of mutual friends before I even really knew about him.
That's cool.
So I would like to. I mean, I'm not going to have a say in like what gets built and everything, because it's just for me. I felt happy just to donate the money.
You're not going to go around and start barking orders.
I trust them to do the right thing with it. Yeah. I would like to just see for myself, how it has benefited them. That would be great if I could go there and do that.
Yeah, and like you say, obviously, again, that money, we're fortunate in this part of the world for money to be as valuable as it is, because you can, like, the generosity of the community is genuinely crazy. I know Jimmy's done some live streams, Driver 61, Scott, we both jumped in on that as well. Like the generosity of the community is genuinely, like, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's unreal. Like I
to see.
I had to go through my emails, like, because it's done through PayPal. I got an email every time. I spent like 4 hours deleting like all the email, like, not deleting, just like marking them as read, because there were so many donations. Like, it just went on forever. Like the amount of people who donated, how much they donated, it was just ridiculous. The generosity is crazy. Not just for my event, but like you say, for Jimmy's, Drive 61, lots of other events. So it's really good. Hopefully we can do more of that in the future. Yeah,
definitely, man. Because it's a beautiful thing, especially with everything that's been going on as well. I think everyone needs a bit of a pick me up. But well, I want to get onto the bit of the podcast now. Just talking about, I've got some like random stuff that I kind of stick on at on towards the end. But Steve, are there any particular like passions or interests in your life that maybe people wouldn't know necessarily? Like, are you really into sculpture, for example? Do you love sculpture YouTube channels, or maths, or I don't know? You know what I mean? Is there anything out there that you're into that people maybe don't know about you?
Sure. I think in many ways, when I tell people like the music I'm into or the things I watch and whatever, people are often very surprised. I think I give a very different vibe. But I love music. I do love music. Yeah. I listen to a lot of music like every day. I love like metal music, rock music, electronic music, rap music, hip hop music. So I listen to that a lot. I would like to be able to say that I could play instruments, but I can't. But maybe that's something for the future.
Have you ever tried?
I do have a keyboard at home. I would like to learn the drums. That would be my number one choice.
Okay, nice.
But I can't realistically do that in a set of flats.
Noise complaints would be.
Oh God, they're already bad enough with my exhaust pipe in my car, waking everyone up. Music, I love music. I listen to a lot of music, but football, I don't know if I'm an Arsenal fan. Unfortunately,
struggling Gooner.
It's been a sorry time. Although
First
to be
time
fair,
out of the Champions League in 25 years, Steve.
I know. That's the one thing I'm waiting for Arsenal to win the Champions League, which we are very far away from.
You're going to be waiting.
It's just not going to realistically happen. To be honest, when Arsene Wenger left Arsenal, I mean, Arsene Wenger Arsenal was the only Arsenal I know, because he joined when I was like 5. So it's the only Arsenal I know. And to be honest, when he left, it kind of, I still support Arsenal, but I'm not really all that interested. Like like massively invested. I just like
You're
to
not
watch
as invested
football.
yet.
I just like to watch games of football. So like, you know, we've got the Champions League final, FA Cup final that's just happened. I just love watching different games of football.
Euros coming up as well.
The Euro tournament, really looking forward to that. So football is another passion. I've always played it since I've done it longer than I've done karting. So,
what position do you play?
I'm a right back. I love to defend naturally, yeah, but then, you know, bring up the wing and then whip in a nice cross.
Naturally defensive. Would you say your driving is naturally defensive, or are you a bit more aggressive on track?
I would say
some people are known for their defending, aren't they? Like in terms of, you know, yes, or being great defenders or great attackers.
I'd say I'd like to think I can do both, but I would say it's a hard one because there are situations where I just send it and I just go for it. I'd say I'm very much in the middle. I don't really defend too much, or I don't attack too much. I'm quite cautious. I'll do it if it feels right, but kind of in the middle on that one.
Do you play much Rocket League?
I've never played it, not once, not even for 2 seconds.
You've never played Rocket League?
I know that's kind of crazy, isn't it? I've never played it, not for 1 second.
Because it blends football and cars, but also you can. The reason I was asking because you can play. Like some people, I'm more defensive on Rocket League. Right, I prefer to sit in the goal and get the saves rather than going up and scoring. That's why I was asking.
I know, yeah. I mean,
played it.
Saving a goal is just as good as scoring a goal.
Exactly.
It's just as crucial.
Underappreciated.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I used to be a defender as well when I used to play football. So yeah, I always used to. Oh, I used to take penalties though, so I would get a few goals.
Okay, yeah.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And obviously the M2, we've got to talk about the Beamer. You've been making some upgrades to that. I remember last time we spoke, you were saying that you were gonna. I think you got the exhaust done. I think you had the cow udders removed.
Yeah.
What more have you got planned for the Beamer?
Well, one thing I wanted. I mean, it sounds crazy, but 410 horsepower. I've kind of got used to it, and I wouldn't mind a bit more. My car was built after July 2020, so it's got like a new ECU, which you can't put remaps on just yet. Like companies are trying to work it out. But once we can get that sorted, I think you can get like an upgrade to like 520 horsepower. Mm-hmm. So something like that would be pretty. I mean, it's already enough, but I wouldn't mind a bit more.
With such a short wheelbase as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, in the rain, you've got to be super careful in that car because it's rear-wheel drive, manual gearbox. It's like a pure driving machine. That's why I got it really, because it's just very it's like a big go-kart in many ways.
Yeah.
But it's just really good fun to drive. But you got to be really careful. Like if it's snowing, just like do not drive it because you will die. Guaranteed death.
What were when you decided to buy the Beamer? Were there any other options you seriously considered, or was it always the M2?
To be honest, I didn't really look at anything else. Not seriously, anyway. When I was driving my old car, was it the Abarth Punto before that, which was a decent car. I saw an M2 go past, and I was like, "It's got to be that." It looks great, but then the fact that because a lot of modern cars don't give you a manual gearbox, they don't, or a lot of sports cars don't.
And they won't do for much longer at all.
No, it seems like they're being phased out, like eventually. So definitely. I think there's going to be a lot of change in the automotive industry, like in the next sort of 10, 20 years, like more than the last 10 to 20 years.
Oh, massive, yeah.
Yeah, like absolutely. Huge differences. So ideally, I'd love to be able to just keep this car like forever, and then it'd be one that you can just like drive twice a year as a treat kind of thing.
Well, it's only in the UK anyway. It's 8.5 years until you won't be able to buy anything that isn't new, isn't hybrid or electric.
Yeah.
So there'll be no straight petrols, no straight diesels, like brand new cars. And then by 2035, I think the plan is to just be electric, brand new cars. So that's what I mean. You're getting one of the last pure thoroughbred. How do you feel about that? In terms of the electric revolution, the transitions away from. To be fair, I'm more bothered because I love driving a manual.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm more upset about. But I mean, you go to America or Australia and they're all automatics. So we'll get used to it.
I think it's just one of those things where it's like whatever you've grown up with and what you're used to is what you want forever. I've grown up with petrol and I've grown up with manual, so I will always want that. But I mean, that's the selfish approach.
Yeah.
If you want to, I understand that change has to happen at some point. Change will happen. Even something as simple, well, I say simple, but something like driverless cars. Like in 500 years' time, will humans be driving our own cars? Probably not. It'll probably all be automatic. It's going to happen at some point. It just depends when. So change is going to happen. We just have to get used to it, basically. Like, it's the way it is.
Sad times. I mean, because obviously motorsport, that's what football as a game will always exist until we all blow ourselves up and humans don't exist on this planet anymore. But I feel like motorsport is more at risk of being... I think for me, I suppose it's like sustainability is about, not necessarily just getting rid of all of these things that we like that aren't particularly sustainable. It's making things that we like more sustainable so that they can exist in a new world. And I like to think that motorsport will be able to, because obviously these things, we look over periods of 10, 20 years and we think, oh, it's changed so much, but it's just small changes every single day that just add up to make a big difference. But I don't know, where do you see kind of Formula One and motorsport being in 10 years time? Because F1's got this whole biofuel versus electrification kind of battle on its hands, really, I think, going forward.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. In some ways, you could argue that like F1 shouldn't have to follow like everything else. It could just run on petrol because it is just 20 cars, and it probably doesn't make anywhere near. They don't probably use up as anywhere near as much fuel as.
They're the most efficient internal combustion engines ever.
Yeah,
like current F1 engines.
Yeah, it's hard to say where it's going to end up. The worry is just like one of the great things about going to a motorsport circuit and just watching it. It's just like the sound, the feeling of, the power. You can really feel the power through the sound and that kind of thing. So to lose that wouldn't be a good thing.
No.
If the racing quality is still good, like we can still have good quality racing. Doesn't matter what the if it's electric or if it's whatever.
Definitely.
I just hope that we don't lose the racing quality. It is a shame that I think we will lose probably like the sound and that kind of thing. But it's hard to say where F1 is going to go because electric is going to take over sort of the automotive industry, and you just wonder, F1 is sort of at that fork in the road. Like, which way is it going to go?
Yeah, because that's the thing. I think from a sporting point of view, there's no reason why it can't go down the biofuel way and be very sustainable and tick all the boxes. But the problem is that F1 has always had to tie back to the manufacturers and the automotive. And unless F1 can kind of break away from that a bit, because obviously you've always had independence, but it feels like independent, teams like Haas are getting less and less now. And I feel like, without that, automotive brands are going to struggle to justify running biofuel. But I don't know, maybe not. It's difficult. It's really difficult. It's a bit, but I just feel like this next 5 years is going to be huge, isn't it? Because they're talking about, I think they want full biofuels in F1 by 25, I think it is. And that's the talk. But what about with karting as well? Because I know there's like electric karts and petrol karts. Like, is there much of a conversation around that changing, or is that kind of not really being touched at the moment?
Not that I've seen. I mean, we have seen some like electric karts being introduced. Like a lot of indoor tracks use indoor karts now. A lot of indoor tracks use electric karts now, sorry. So there is a bit of a change in that front. Outdoor karting is pretty much all petrol, but I don't really see much of a buzz going on online about electric cars are going to be like, you're not like with the automotive industry where you can really feel that it's coming soon. With karting, I don't know, it doesn't really seem like that's a major thing at the moment.
I guess there's just so much. The automotive industry is just exponentially bigger than karting, which is just a very small sub niche. But well, we can't read the future, Steve. We've just got to hope that everything survives. But talking of alternative universes, not that we were, say you never started doing YouTube in the first place.
Yeah.
Where do you think you would have been? What do you think you would have done? Were there any other kind of career prospects away from, obviously, you know, when you pulled out of university, were there any other avenues? Because I know you said you were working in kind of a factory, and, you know, long term, were there any other like things you were looking into? Like, could be anything, accounting. OnlyFans early doors before.
OnlyFans getting there first. To be honest, I don't have a good answer for this. I'll just give you sort of the boring answer, which is I was one of these people where I don't really know what I'm doing. I have no clue. I'm making up as I go along. I don't really have a plan. Luckily, YouTube worked out. But like you say, if it didn't, where would I be? I don't know. Like, I just really don't have an idea. I'll probably just still be in the same job as I was doing before. I'd love to say that there was some big dream, or even like YouTube. YouTube wasn't a dream for me. It just worked because I tried. It's just one of those things. I think there's a lot of people like this where we don't really know. We're all making up as we go along. We don't really know what we're doing.
No, but I think pretty much everyone is like that, because there's this very romanticized version of life where you know, when you're a kid, you dream of being this, and then everything's a straight upward curve towards that end goal. But like, life doesn't work like that. And I think, like, you know, I think that's a good answer, Steve, because that's a real answer.
Yeah.
And
so I remember when I was at school, the teacher went around all of us and went like, "What do you want to do when you're older?" When I was about 15, everyone said whatever, you know, policeman, fireman, whatever. And I said, I don't know. I just said, I don't know. And he had to go at me. I said, he had to go at me. I was like, I don't know what I do. I don't know what I want to do now. I know I'm a YouTuber, but like, if I had to do something else, I still don't know. So, yeah, that's my answer.
That's the thing. There's this like pressure and expectation that you need to know what you want to do by this age or by that age or whatever. Like, even when the first thing is like when you're deciding what GCSEs you're going to do in year 10 and 11, isn't it? Because then you're like you're defining, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to pick. Oh, I want to do graphics, or I want to do geography, or whatever. But like, yeah, I think a lot of people, like, when I'll chat to, like, you know, Hannah's brother and sister and that, and they're kind of at that kind of college age, and there's all this expectation amongst them and their friends to like know what they want to do for the rest of their life, and it's just like, it's just bullshit, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It totally is. Like, yeah, you can sell a dream, like, especially with social media. Like, I could say that I've always wanted to. You could really curate things in a certain way and say that I've always wanted to do this since I was. It's like, well, no, like, I'm not going to lie to anyone. I didn't know what I was ever going to do. I didn't necessarily think YouTube was going to work out. It just.
But again, like, when we were both teenagers, we obviously had an interest in motorsport because we studied it, but we both knocked it on the head, and we've kind of come full circle. Yep. But like, when I look back, like, none of my career, you know, things have really been planned. No. It's all like, oh, I've seen a job offer. I've seen like a job on I randomly went on a job website one day, saw a job, applied for it. Oh, and I've got a job now. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, so much of it is just opportunity and circumstance and just luck as well. That's what I mean. Like, and I think, you know, that's why I always like to kind of talk about this, because I just think so many people, like, listening and out there watching, just kind of feel like, if you feel like you need to have everything decided and made up, like me and Steve, we're just making it up as we go along. You know what I mean? And we're meant to be the successful ones and the big YouTubers. Look at us, blah, blah, blah.
That's the thing, especially with social media, because if you look through anyone's Instagram who's got like a moderate following, it looks like, whoa, God, they're doing all these things. They know what they're doing. They've got it all sorted. It's like, I have 1,000 problems every day. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I have no idea how to do this, how to do that. I'm working stuff out every day. I have so many problems, you know. It's like, it makes it look like you've got everything sorted on social media, but like, it's not always that easy.
Well, it's a highlight reel, isn't it? That's the way I see it. It's you don't post the bad stuff.
No.
You know, you don't post when you've gone to the toilet and there's no toilet roll. So you've got to like do the weird crab walk to find the bog roll.
I might do that one. I might post that later.
Maybe, Steve. That would be iconic. I'd love, and then everyone could listen to this podcast and be like, "Oh, that makes sense now why Steve posted that." But no, because I think it is dangerous, and we're all why would you? That's the thing. It's difficult because no one wants to post the bad stuff, but it's just accepting like that what social media is. It is just a highlight reel. It is just it's not real life. It's not an actual reflection of what goes on. Like how have you? Because obviously this is all tied into kind of, when people look at others and look up and like how have you ever dealt with any kind of like self-doubt and worries about, or have you always kind of felt quite confident in what you're doing and that you were gonna make something of it once you did go full time?
I know I have doubt all the time. Like I would say that in my old job, so when I was working like in the warehouse and like in the office, like my life was like 6 out of 10 all the time, or 7 out of 10, like in terms of my mood. Now it's like 8, 2, 8, 2, 8, 2. Really? So it's just like, oh, we're fine. And then just like, oh God, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Everything's gone to crap. So there's a load of doubt all the time about what I'm doing and how I should be doing it. And that's one of the things with YouTube. It's almost like you have to hide that. You're kind of like that's not happening. And then this is why I've stopped live streaming at the moment, because it's almost like, imagine getting to the end of the day and you're not that happy, and then you sort of have to force like a personality through, and it's very tiring. Like streaming is harder than it looks when you're not really up for it. So I mean, there's lots of doubt a lot of the time, but I have to fight through that and just get on with it in many ways.
Would you say that's kind of something that gets triggered from, people being toxic online, or would you say that's more kind of an internal kind of manifestation of kind of self-doubt and all that, which I think we all go through to extents, but some more than others, I suppose?
I'd say it's definitely both. I mean, it is easy to get frustrated from a comment, especially when, I don't know, you're trying to be honest about something and then someone thinks that you're lying or that you're not being genuine or honest. So that can be very frustrating. In many ways, like now I try not to read comments. It's a shame because there's something I've always tried to do is try to reply to comments and just try to, be engaged with my audience. But sometimes I think just like, if I have to read for every 10 comments and one of them's a bad one, it's like, it does get you when you have to keep reading it. So in many ways I try not to, it's a shame that you have to kind of stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's human nature, isn't it? You get 10 great comments and then one bad one, and you focus on the bad one.
Yeah.
And that's an annoying thing on YouTube Studio. I don't know if you can change it, but it always, when it says it, it has most recent comments on YouTube Studio, and I wish I could just switch that off, but because then you occasionally, because usually when I do a video, I'll put it out and wait half hour, then I'll get in the comments and look at the ones. I'll just go from top to bottom as the ones with the most likes, and they tend to be the top comments tend to be fine. They tend to be the best ones, the funniest ones, whatever. But then if you go newest first, that's when you get all the dregs. But I know, like, how because obviously since your growth has kind of accelerated so much over the last kind of couple of years, like, do you feel that because you've done this for so long, you were quite well prepared for the increased attention on you, or was that really difficult as well?
Yeah, I think I've been really careful with like how I've managed that over the years. Like I've always played the long game on YouTube. Just try not to do anything too fast and let's not rush anything and get anything too big too quick. I think I managed that quite well. But one of the really positive things that happened like in the last few months is, with YouTube, you can just look at the screen and just see a number. You've got this many views, this many subscribers, and it's just like a number on a screen, which is meaningless in many ways. But like, I've been going karting a lot recently in the last sort of month, and I've had lots of like kids especially coming up to me and just saying like, I've started karting because of you. I love the videos you make.
That's sick.
Honestly. Yeah. And then when you hear that, because it's coming from a real person who stood in front of you, it's real, and you think, wow, I'm actually like benefiting an actual person. Because obviously you are, when people watch your videos and they love your videos, but when it's just a number on the screen, it's hard to make something from that. But when someone in real life comes up to you and says that, they started karting, or they love your videos, or they're inspired by you. It really does make it really worth doing, and that happened quite a lot this month, in the last sort of 2 months. A lot of, especially like the younger audience, they really enjoy it. So that is just really good to see that.
Yeah, it's easy to get bogged down on the negative sides and the trolls and all that shit, but like ultimately, you're doing so much more good with putting content out there. It's free content. It's keeping people's minds engaged, and like you said as well, like the whole kind of educational side of what you do as well, in terms of it's a lot of it's good fun, but also like with your karting stuff, you are actually kind of you think how many young kids you've brought into the karting realm. I mean, I do wonder how many. It's probably in the hundreds, I'd say. Kids who maybe wouldn't have considered it before, but have jumped into it, and you can't measure that over numerous years as well. It must feel pretty satisfying when you actually think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best aspects as well, in terms of the sim racing, is like a lot of people comment saying they do not have, like with the Gran Turismo videos, for example, that they don't have a PlayStation, they don't have Gran Turismo, or they don't play video games, and yet they still love watching it, the videos. So, when you're attracting those people who have no interest in that game ever, but they still love to watch it, that's a really good thing as well. And a lot of people have, off the back of that, bought a PlayStation and Gran Turismo just to start playing it, just because of the video I made. So that's always, it's really good to see that you're influencing people in a positive way.
Where's that Sony paycheck?
I know. Honestly, the amount of times people said, "I've just bought a PlayStation." Like Sony, like seriously, give me some commission.
Hit me up. Come on, pay the man. Sony.
Come on, guys.
You've got the money. All right, Steve. Well, we're going to round it out now. Got my little quickfire round that we always stick on the end. So, Steve Brown, are you ready for the quickfire round?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Good lad. First of all, favourite flavour crisps?
Cheese and onion.
Good lad, yes.
Salt and vinegar prawn cocktail, no thank you.
Oh my God.
Not in a million years. Like,
I'd
just rather just starve to death.
Yeah, I could not agree. The amount of people who've said prawn cocktail done my head in. Honestly, that's weird. Just eat a skip or something. Favourites for I can't speak. Well, we've already talked about football. So outside of F1 and football, what is your favourite sport? That's number 3.
I don't know, because I don't know if you watch any other sports.
What about like at the Olympics? What do you enjoy?
100-metre sprint.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be 100-metre sprint.
I like the 4x100.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a really good one because it's like explosive. Sick, like it. Favourite road car that isn't the M2?
I've always liked the Porsche GT3 RS. I've always loved that car.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Chris Harris has got a really nice yellow GT3. I think it's not the RS one.
Yeah.
But it's weird because they've just added the little grille on the new 911, haven't they?
Yeah.
It's like a little Hitler moustache.
Yeah, there's a newer GT3 RS. I prefer the one from a few years ago.
Yeah. But I agree. I think I know what one you're talking about. Very nice. Favourite band, Steve? Ooh. You said you're a music man. You've got to pick one.
That's a hard one.
To see live. Let's say to see live.
Well, I'll go with my old school answer. The band I always used to love growing up, Pendulum. And they're great. Like, I mean, that's the type of music you want to see live, really, isn't it?
It is.
Or the Prodigy live music.
Steve, me and you are just cheese and onion. Prodigy. We are. I think we're the same person. I mean, this is why I love Alex Albon so much.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I got to see Prodigy live a couple of times. It was
that's unreal.
Wonderful thing. All right, Steve, you're on death row for crimes against karting. You've punted Lando off and you've broken his leg, and Zach Brown has sent the hit squad over, and you're on death row. What is your final meal? What are you going out on?
Oh my goodness.
I
think, because it's your last meal, normally I wouldn't have a pizza and a burger in the same meal. but I think I'd have to, because if I'm about to die, you might as well,
Would you would you put the burger on the pizza and then calzone it on the top, or would you
wrap it all into one? Or
you could be creative with it,
I don't know. I just probably have like a really good Five Guys cheeseburger with bacon in it, and then like some sort of meat burger, pizza.
Nice. Just
obviously a meat burger.
Would you have any salad or no?
Oh no. Maybe a little bit of lettuce in the burger, but that's about it.
Okay, that's fine. Well, you're going out in style.
Exactly, yeah.
It's fine. Favourite holiday destination, Steve?
Ooh.
Where would you love to go, or somewhere you've been, or you'd love to go?
Okay, like I'll say two. Like one where I want to go is Hawaii, because a lot of my family live there, and I haven't been there for a long time, and it's just an amazing place. Yes. It's Hawaii. But a good holiday I had a couple of years ago was Italy. I went to Rome, Pompeii, Amalfi Coast.
Beautiful.
Really good. Definitely recommend going to there. Obviously, the food's really good.
Oh yeah, food's phenomenal. Yeah, I love Rome. Rome's a quality. Where else did you? So you went Pompeii.
So we landed in Rome, but then drove to Pompeii. Stayed there. Went up Mount Vesuvius.
Nice.
Stayed in Naples for a little bit. Drove around the Amalfi Coast. So that's all quite close to each other, all that bit, and then back to Rome for like 4 days.
Beautiful, very nice. Florence is really nice as well. I would recommend Florence. Yep. Florence is, for me, better than Rome as well. Next one, Steve. Are you a cat or are you a dog man?
Dogs, definitely. Nice. I mean, I love animals, right? But cats, I don't know if you agree, there's something demonic about them. There's just something, like, most of the time they walk about and just do whatever. And then sometimes they just, like, make weird, like, properly demonic noises, or just, like, get into some weird, like, shape, position. You know what I mean? There's something freaky about them.
I think, look, I've got a dog now, but I grew up with cats. Yeah. So I've got a positive sentiment of both. But I understand why, because cats are tend to be a bit more unpredictable.
Yes.
You kind of like, I'm really good, like if I'm walking around somewhere with Hannah and we see a cat, and like I'll go straight down and it will usually come over to me, because I kind of know, I know how to read, because I had two cats that were very different. One was like a dog and the other was a miserable bastard. So, bless him. But what kind of dogs specifically do you have? Do you have any dogs in the family?
No.
Would you like to get a dog?
The only pets we've ever had is my sister's had loads of rabbits. Mm-hmm. Still has one now. If let's say if I had to get a dog, probably I wouldn't mind like a German Shepherd.
Nice.
I mean, yeah, that would probably be the type of dog I'd get.
Love them.
Yeah.
Love them. I'd probably get I've already got one, but I'd get a big dog for Minton to sit on its back.
Ride it into battle.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be sick. All right, next question. Tea or coffee, Steve?
Well, I don't actually drink either.
Mate, we're the same person. What is this?
Yeah, I don't drink either of them.
They're both, tea.
The only thing I would say, when I worked in the office, everyone there drank loads of coffee, and just to really get under their skin, when I was in Seattle, I went to the first ever Starbucks and had a coffee in there. So just to really undermine all of them apparent coffee lovers, I've actually had the coffee in the first ever Starbucks.
I tend to always get like a hot chocolate if you go to one of them mango slushies or something.
Yeah, hot drinks don't really do it for me. I just never really got into it. I prefer the smell of coffee.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Like coffee flavored chocolates, I think are really nice. But I just the drinks rubbish. All right. And talking of beverages, what about your alcoholic bevy of choice, Steve?
Yeah,
what would be your go-to?
I mean, all the guys at Velocity probably know me for Jaeger bombs, but I think my sort of fallback go-to drink, if I can't be bothered to think of something, is a Jack Daniels and Coke.
Okay, sophisticated, smooth. Kind
of. When I'm not necking them.
Was that your drink down at Hertfordshire? Was that your
Yeah.
Choice?
I can recall some feisty nights after drinking that stuff.
What about like beer or cider?
In terms of a beer, probably something like a Kronenberg.
Okay.
Nothing too flashy, but I don't mind.
beer, so.
I'm not too far. I don't like Guinness, I would say. But most
I've
beers
never tried a
I'm
Guinness.
happy with.
I'd like to try Guinness because I feel like that's probably the one beer that maybe I would like, but I don't know.
Oh, you don't drink beer?
No, I hate beer.
Oh, right.
I hate beer. All beer.
What, the taste or what is it?
There's an inherent taste. It's like in fish. You know, like all fish, there's an inherent flavour that is in all fish. It's like in beer, there's just this inherent taste. And there was one night at Litton Tree in Bournemouth where I downed like 3 pints of beer because we were playing a stupid game and beers were like £2 each and I was violently ill.
I would say something to try, which I tried with when it comes to beer. Breathe all the way out and then drink. Honestly, it transforms the experience of drinking beer for me because I used to get really gassy from it, get loads of hiccups. And then just after doing that, I do it with every drink I drink now. I just breathe all the way out and then drink it. And it just makes drinking so much easier.
What, because of the gassiness?
Yeah.
Make sure you always pour it into a glass as well.
And pour in a glass, yeah.
Lets the gas
absolutely.
escape.
Yeah.
So, there you go. There's 2 tips. So pour it into a glass and breathe out. And then drink.
Yeah.
There you go, Steve. That man of much knowledge is our Steve Alvarez Brown. And then the final question in the quickfire round, and how we're going to wrap it up, Steve. What is your favourite livery of the 2021 grid?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, because they're all pretty good this year. Well, a lot of them are.
There's some bangers.
Right. What have we got? Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren. I mean, that Golf livery was pretty good, wasn't it? McLaren.
Hence the T-shirt.
Yeah, of course. Alpha Tauri, Alfa Romeo. It's one of those weird things where it's almost like you bias cars that go quickly. It's like if Mercedes was the Alfa Romeo colour, it's like it would probably be my favourite one because it's at the front. In a weird sense, I'm going to go with McLaren. I've always liked that orange and the blue. Like I have genuinely just liked those colours together. I think they do go well.
Fair play.
I thought the Aston Martin one would be better. It's not as good as I thought it would be. But the liveries this year are a bit better on average than like previous years. Yeah, I'd say for sure.
What do you think of the AMG sticker bomb?
I don't mind it too much. I think it's the Ineos red bit that kind of
that's not very jarring.
Yeah, it just like ruins the black, and then the Petronas colour goes well with either the grey or the black. But then when you add that red bit, it's like I don't know.
And what about the Williams?
Oh yeah, I don't mind it too much. I don't think it's a bad livery. But what I would say about it is that it's kind of artistic in a way, but it doesn't show the sponsors very well.
No.
It's really bad for that.
Well, I'm glad they've finally, because they had that random, along the side profile, and they've just got this black bit that just appears, and that was and now they've got the Rilton sticker on there now to fill it. But I mean, when it launched, I thought it was one of the worst liveries of all time. Now I just don't like it. So it's grown on me slightly. Actually seeing it on the car, because the VR model of it, the failed VR got hacked launch. Honestly, I was like, that's not the real car, surely.
Yeah,
not.
Well, when
that's been done by a 5-year-old.
When people say it's like on F1 the game, you have the custom random liveries that you can get. It does have that sort of vibe about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stand out much beyond that, but I do like the Alfa Romeo one as well. I think that's a very sort of tidy looking car.
That's my favourite.
Very tidy.
Baby. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the little fin as well down the back.
It's a beautiful car. Like, they've done a really good job with that. I would actually say, I think the Alpha Tauri one is totally overrated. I don't really like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's okay.
I think the way that on the side the white the blue line, the curve.
Yeah.
It doesn't accentuate the curves of the car at all.
Mm. Well, it makes the car look quite tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
a good livery makes the car look slammed.
It looks low and sleek. The way that blue line comes up, it doesn't do that to that car. So I'd say lots of people like that livery. I rate that as one of the lower ones. I don't like that one, really.
That's fair. Fair, Steve. Well, Steve, we're done, mate. I'll let you go. It's been a pleasure, Bal. Have you enjoyed it?
Been really good fun, actually. Yeah. I do like doing these podcasts. I do like having a chat. It's always good fun, and thank you for having us on the show.
Pleasure, mate. Been a long time coming, this. Obviously, there are links to all of Steve's things down in the description below. If you don't know, get to know. So make sure you go and say hello, give him a sub. All good stuff. And what we get up to the rest of the day, mate? What's going on?
Yeah, so editing a couple of things, editing a few videos, and then actually later I'm going to go and see a friend from secondary school I haven't seen in like 10 years. So that'd be quite nice.
Sick.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, enjoy your day, mate. Again, thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me your valuable time. And thank you to everyone who watched on YouTube, listened on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. I just stick it on Buzzsprout, and I think it's on pretty much every podcast platform. So, Steve, pleasure, mate. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And I will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone. Ciao, adios. We are done. Say bye, Steve.
Goodbye, viewers. Thank you.
Goodbye. Get in there, Lewis.
Get in there, Lewis. Fantastic podcast, mate.
That's all right.